here is yesterday, One America News.
Oh, I love them.
Aired a tribute to Donald Trump. And
easily one of our 6 best cable news channels.
And this, I want to get your take on it because you're very literate, obviously, and
Okay.
as cultured as you are. I thought maybe you could give us a sense of how we should absorb this. This is on Thursday.
Oh, I like this one.
Well, despite endless lies and attacks from Democrats and the media, President Trump and the administration fought for the country over the past 4 years, and now the network would like to share this tribute to his accomplishments. Take a look.
If, by Rudyard Kipling. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good, nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken, and stoop and build them up with worn-out tools, if you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginnings, and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew
Never
to serve
breathe a word
your
about your
turn
loss.
long after they are gone,
The
and so
classic
hold
Trump
on
trait.
when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep
This
your
is so
virtue,
me.
or walk with kings, nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but are none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything
Little
that's in
hand.
it. And, which is more, you'll be a man, my son.
So before we get into the actual text of this, I want to point out that this concept is ripped off from a fan video, a tribute to Arsene Wenger, the soccer coach.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, from like 2013. Ishan Thor sent it to me yesterday. That one's a little bit better because Wenger's a lot better at walking than Trump is. Like, I feel like they had to scour like some crazy, like Errol Morris years of footage thing just to find like 15-second clip of him walking across a tarmac where he's not canted at a 45-degree angle somehow.
You gotta. I can imagine like the editor or the production assistant getting the orders for this. Just get every single shot that we have of Donald Trump waving or walking.
Yeah, if there's a thing where he's looking at a helicopter, we want that. If he's waving to the helicopter, also good. If he's hugging or kissing the helicopter, you're going to want to run that up the chain to make sure that it's appropriate.
I couldn't help but listen to that poem by Rudyard Kipling and thinking maybe you should also have, maybe there should have been a poem, What If You Can't?
Right. I mean, what's funny about it is the poem itself
are none of the things that he can do.
They're all the opposite of the thing. I mean, that's the part of it that I love is like, it gets funnier the more solemn it becomes, as it's sort of like the idea of being like, if you could lose and never speak a word of your loss, like, oh, right. Like Trump does, the guy that
would not be Donald Trump. That's what would happen if
the guy that can't refer to the dude that beat him as the president and calls him former Vice President Biden, like fucking Woody Hayes calling Michigan the northern rival or whatever. Like, how childish could that be?
Oh my gosh.
The guy that made the video too, it's funny, One America News, like, that's just like a tweet that they saw that they put on TV. Like, they didn't make that. Some like weird Twitter dude who like linked to InfoWars. That Harrison Smith guy that's up, or whatever his name is, Harrison of Texas. That's not like an in-house production of One American News, which you can tell because like it's like it doesn't look like it's in a Verhoeven movie, like it looks like it's in a Zack Snyder movie, but it's the same. It's a different sort of energy.
That I didn't realize they seem to take credit for it though.
Yeah, well, they're kind of like, we just wanted to share this with you. That's like, I guess, during technically a news block too for them. That's not like during the. I don't know what their opinion shows are like. I mean, is it just like?
It's not. I mean,
just a police officer crying inconsolably for 1 hour.
I mean, I could knock them for putting that on their program, but I just played their thing and made.
Well, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
You don't have to agree with the perspective to respect it as art.
Yeah, it's true. I also I'm going to confess that I had to hold back the tears.
Yeah. So do you think that is actually how the people that most solemnly admire Trump see him? I've been going over that in my mind.
A doubt.
How?
My whole perspective on the modern conservative mind is that it is just about aggrievement. It is just about
I agree with that.
And because there is such a John Benjamin, when we were younger, had a joke that he talked about, that he was like, I would love to live in an oppressive regime because it would justify my feelings of oppression. And on some level, like, I think like there is such an aggrievement felt that I think is like constitutional, not big concept, but literally just
like emotional.
There's nothing left after there's nothing but a 5 o'clock shadow after after you take out the aggrievement from the conservative mind, and to feed that aggrievement, to maintain that, they feel constantly aggrieved by everything.
Yeah.
I'm on the phone, press 2 for Spanish. My God, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like that, like all of this, they're a constant feeling of being under siege. And just the fact that they can make it through the day is they have to impart to themselves a quality that is they see in Donald Trump, which is that he has the ability to weather this storm around him and is just always Donald Trump. I mean,
I agree on the grievance stuff. It's that last bit that doesn't connect to me, because like he complains all the time. All he does is bitch. And that, like, I guess that, like, if you're out there and you see
what he's subjected to, David.
Yeah.
That's what you don't see.
Is that Bette Midler was very nasty to him.
Of course, she was horrible. Did you see what Kathy Griffin did?
She literally cut his head off.
Literally cut his head off.
His son was watching E! News Tonight, and he thought that his dad had been killed. He thought he found out on E! That's terrible.
I mean, that's the part that you don't understand. You don't understand, David, because you live in your ivory tower.
Yep. You can tell, it's got literally has bobbleheads in it, but yes.
With your fancy bobbleheads.
My Drupal Cabrera bobbleheads.
You don't understand what Donald Trump has been subjected to. He didn't need this. He could have been he was so happy flying on his airplane. He didn't need this.
This is one of the things that's hardest.
You don't appreciate it.
In writing about Trump, is that there's never, I mean, it's not like hard, because he only ever does one thing, right? So you just have to find new ways to talk about whatever it is he's doing. Now, thankfully, I don't have to really hardly do that at all. But the challenge with it is that any joke that you make, even the most overstated joke, is just basically something that you're going to wind up writing in earnest a year down the line. That's like, it never, there's not like a change in course or an adjustment. It's just like, it's drift, and the current moves quickly, and it only goes in one direction, and it runs all the fucking time. And that, with this sort of thing, the idea that, like, if you were to say, if we were to go back 5 years and Trump isn't in the primary yet for the Republicans, but you can see it's just this kind of like weird bunch of like creepy governors and like kind of just like veteran TV goblins and like thirsty weirdos. And you're like, well, this is like not a very inspiring group of people. And also their message is basically that, like, everybody has it easier than you, the white person with money and 2 cars. And then this guy comes in and you're like, they're like a man who's basically famous for being like the horny rich guy on TV for decades. Like, if you were to make a joke then that you're like, give them time and they're going to turn this dude into a Christ figure, like literally the divorce guy from television is going to become someone who is like the very emblem of sacrifice and civic mindedness. Like, Trump is the funniest person that you could prop up as that. Like Charlie Sheen, I guess, then would have been a similar joke. And like, here we are, though.
I will say, and that the part that you're missing from this, I think, because at the time I was convinced that he was going to dominate them.
I think did feel that. I don't know if that's revisionist history, but like
it is for one reason only. And where we played that clip of Dave Ramsey, I think you may have seen it, where Dave Ramsey, this, the evangelical money
finance guy.
He's not a finance guy. He's a money, a responsible money guy, essentially. I mean, maybe he's finance, but
it's like Dr. Phil of money.
Yes.
What a cool gig. I should do that.
But when he expresses that if you're poor, there is a moral failing that you have that you're not addressing. The opposite of that.
Yeah, that makes sense, actually. The flip side of that coin is, if you are rich, therefore you have to work backwards to figure out how did this fucking idiot, where it's like, whatever, the suit equivalent of Velcro shoes, how did he get a plane?
Exactly. He's a billionaire. And, whether he is or not,
right,
his shtick. And so when he gets on that stage with the other people, everything he says literally trumps theirs because he's richer. Yeah. Like, we had been primed for this. George Bush was the CEO president. You've got, Mitt Romney out there talking about like, the kid who gets the brown bag, lunch is morally better than the kid who shows up and gets the free lunch at school. Like they had been trained, and it merges with a religiosity that you are morally righteous if you are wealthy. Mm-hmm. And so the wealthiest guy on the stage is necessarily the most morally righteous. That they had constructed this hierarchy. They constructed the ladder, and he just steps on and at the top of the ladder, and that's it.
I think that's the thing that I've tried to like sort of understand about him, especially during like the end of it, where like the contrast between like how he's being talked about and how he acts has gotten so vast. The two things don't fit in the same plane of reality. And I think it's just like, you start out famous, and you start out, at this level where like every American not just knows your name, but knows your name as like a synonym for rich business success man. That like, that is an incredible advantage that like, I don't know where you necessarily start like in terms of countering that. Like the Democratic counter would be like Tom Hanks, because it's like he's America's decent face or whatever. But also like now there's a whole conspiracy theory about how he eats babies that like 1/3 of Republicans believe. So that's a challenge.
I don't know if they're babies. They're without doubt toddlers, maybe. All right, let's play one more clip that I think that you'll appreciate. Now,